So I'm going to talk to you a bit about playful mathematics. So my background is early years and primary education, and I'm going to start with a quote. And the quote is one of my favourites, and it goes like this. So this is Richard Winter, and he says, "Mathematics could be like roller skating, but usually it's like being told to stop roller skating and to come in and tidy your room." Now, that's one of my favourites because I think that perfectly epitomises what maths is like for many, many people and for many, many children. So basically they'll put up with it, or they actually actively hate it. And Winter goes on to say that this is not a superficial matter. And no, it isn't a superficial matter. That children, learners of all ages and of all attainment levels, don't feel positive about themselves in terms of mathematics. They don't like it. They don't see the purpose of it. It's not superficial that reception children learn to dislike maths. That's 4 and 5-year-olds. They learn to dislike it during that year. And by the time they enter year 1, they feel quite negatively about it. So I feel strongly about this because my background in maths was not positive. Not at secondary school. I had 2 attempts for my GCE. Remember those? And when I came to teach it, I didn't want to repeat that experience for my learners. In 1993, Anita Straker wrote, "There's a danger that mathematics is seen by children as a subject in which they learn about other people's ideas, particularly yours, and that it has little to do with them." So what's playfulness got to do with this? Well, I think it's the bit about what it's got to do with them. If we think about roller skating for a minute, what attributes would I need to be even a slightly successful roller skater? I'd need to have some teaching, a little bit. I'd need some support. I'd need a lot of encouragement. I'd need a lot of time to practice. There'd be a lot of repetition, trying things out, and I'd need the courage to take a risk. So if I think of those things in terms of mathematics, how many of those things do we see in our children's lessons? Maybe support and encouragement. What about the time to make sense of an idea? Is there enough repetition? No, I don't think there is. I don't think children are given the courage to take a risk. That was interesting. I thought that Carrie Grant just said something that we cannot learn unless we take risks. I absolutely am behind her on that one. So most of my work has been, and my interest in it has been with learners between the ages of 3 and 8 years old. And although early years does allow that space and freedom for young children to explore things and to have ideas, and we follow them up, often these are opportunities that are completely missed. There's a tendency to overcorrect or correct too soon. Oh my goodness, it's reversing a numeral. We must turn that round immediately. No, we mustn't. To steer children closely through a series of small determined steps, to avoid the making of mistakes, to avoid risk, and to avoid the pure, wild enjoyment and humour that can be associated with mathematics. Now, that might sound a little bit unusual, but I'm going to tell you a story. So I was working with in a nursery class a while ago, and we had a whole heap of pennies. Got my visual aid, Graham, here. A heap of real pennies. And we had some film pots like this. The ones that the clip goes on the end when we had reel-to-reel film. And my plan, I was prepared in order that we were going to do some counting. So we started putting the pennies in the pots and seeing what happened. And of course, they make a really nice noise like this. So that happened for a bit. And then I overheard a child say to another one, she said, "How many I got here?" And so we played her game, which was shake the pot, guess how many are inside, tip them out, see how close we were to our guess. Until one little lad jammed as many pennies as he could into his pot and shook them. See? Like that. And then when everybody sort of said, well, there's nothing in there, he tipped them all out. Like that. Because he jammed so many in that we couldn't hear the noise. So children if there's an element of surprise and curiosity, If there are jokes and deliberate mistakes and tricks and muddles to sort out, children love these things. We all love those things. Have you seen that chocolate bar on YouTube where they slice it diagonally and magically an extra square of chocolate appears? Those things are fascinating. So when I started teaching in reception, I started to try things out that were more in tune with children as playful individuals. How many of those can you fit in your hand? What about both hands? What about my hand? Why do you think that? If we laid them all out, how far do you think they'd stretch? Would they go as far as the rug? What if we tried that game with a different dice? What if, what if, what if? So Tony Brown, writing in, I think it was in about 1996, talked about healthy work. And he says this: healthy work that is seen by the participant as enjoyable, purposeful, creative and rewarding, and contains the essential ingredients of play, the facility for becoming absorbed and for losing oneself in the activity. So, what would our maths classrooms look like if there was a facility for becoming absorbed and for losing oneself? For those children, for those learners to lose themselves? Well, firstly, there has to be time for them to get involved. Not the continual information pumping out so they haven't got time to make sense of anything that we're presenting them with. There has to be something that's interesting, something that I'm curious about. Attention and curiosity, I've heard them referred to as the wick in the candle of learning, and that determines how long the candle learns for. So how am I going to, what will light the wick for this group of learners? And I like to think about preparedness for a maths lesson or session rather than planning. So if you plan something and you spend hours and hours and hours to plan it, you're not going to deviate from that plan, especially if it's been on a Sunday night. But if I'm prepared for several things to happen, then I might well go with what the children are interested in on that occasion. Marion Bird calls this planning for foreseen possibilities, which I really like. So we need teaching for space, teaching with space, teaching with spaces for changes in direction, teaching with spaces for sense making, not maths lessons filled with input. But for me, playful maths is mainly about safety. I am super sensitive to the atmosphere that surrounds maths because I didn't find that easy when I was at secondary school. If we learn in a place of safety, I have to be able to make a mistake without being laughed at. I have to be able to have the time to guess and to ponder. It's not always the children that answer first that get the attention. I have to stop talking about bottom sets, top sets, high and low ability. I have to stop doing that. Being playful can make a task safe. It's not about the big things. It's not always about the big things. It's also about the little things. I bet you can't. I wonder if. Oh, let's try that. And the phrase that I really, really like to use is yes and. So we all get yes but and no but how about yes and? So I have to ponder how I, as an educator, continue to influence the talk around maths so that every interaction with every adult and every child results in them feeling more positively about themselves as mathematics learners. It's really about what my core values are. And all academic learning is built on that solid base of well-being. So what does that well-being in maths look like? If it's confident mathematical thinkers we need, then we need to embrace mathematical playfulness. And if I come back to roller skating, Winter says, all successful education, I would argue, aspires to the conditions of play. And that's me done, Graham.